The Grappling Hour is brought to you by BioPro Plus, the faster, easier, and safer non-synthetic alternative to painful anti-aging and hormone treatments. When have you ever weighed more than me? Exactly.
Well, there was one time
I was like, bro, no. In our existence of knowing each other, you've never weighed more than me.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. I thought I had gotten what I would classify as fat after that.
No, you did not.
But
because
apparently
it was
beg to differ.
Bigger, sure. But in my recollection, the way that I see you do your stuff is I'm always like, this dude thinks he's fat. And I'll indulge it just so that he can know what good food tastes like every once in a while. But deep down inside, I'm like, I'm judging this young man for thinking he is anywhere remotely as fat as I am. How dare he? What is up, ladies and gents? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, Rafa Sparza, coming to you with another installment of Grappling Hour. I hope you're doing well. Hey, have you subscribed at all to our stuff? I'm not just talking about our YouTube page, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, because obviously that does help. However, if you want to become a Grappling Hour member and see interviews like this 30 days before anybody else, all I ask is that you go over to HY.PAGE/Grappling Hour, become a member, and see these interviews before anybody else. Also, you can become a premium member and find fun additional content that's not available anywhere else, including a segment that we're going to do with our friend, the person on the other side right here, which we'll get to him in a second. But first, back to me. We appreciate you guys. Also, join our Discord. We've just been starting up a new Discord where we talk with friends of the show. It's training-based. It's not just this show-based. It's everybody talking about their goals. It's everybody talking about different videos that they like and igniting conversation about the gentle art. So that's what I got going on for you guys. You know, this is interesting because talking about our guest today, normally I get introduced to people. I get to learn who they are. It's kind of that first time like, hey, tell me about you. And then I can't be mean to them. In this particular case, if I really wanted to, I could be mean to him. I unfortunately also train with him regularly, so I don't know how well that would go for me. However, he has been a longtime friend of the show. We always like to get in good training. We're going to do some a little bit later. So that's going to be a lot of fun because he is one of my go-to training partners for a number of reasons. Number one, quality grappling. Number two, and this is probably more important, he's actually a quality human being. So if you get the chance to actually hang out and train with people, you want to train with those good people that push you and who actually you enjoy spending time with. But I am very, very excited to bring on a friend of mine who recently just won at Urijah Faber's A1 combat fighting with spectacular fashion, by the way. So very proud of you, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome my pal, Brady Huang. How are you doing, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me, Raf.
Very, very happy to finally bring you on. We've been trying to figure out a time that it felt right, and it never felt right if, say, it was a grappling competition and I coached you. Yeah. Where I was like, I don't want you to come on and be like, hey, you did a good job coaching me, because that's not what this is about. However, you've put together a very nice resume, excellent MMA career. You've been doing excellent work in grappling. But I think we should start with this. Mm-hmm. The thing I was happiest about with your finish was the fact that the first time we met, it was our pal Colin.
Right.
And he's like, he came up to me. You didn't ask me this. But he's like, hey, man, my buddy Brady's coming. Do you mind showing him some leg lock stuff? And when somebody says that to me, I was like, I don't know if you know more than me or less than me, but I'll start with this. And you were so nice and it was so good. And I just fast forward now all this time later to seeing you get a heel hook finish that is now being featured on Leg Locker and all these different sites. I was so happy for you and proud. And I just thought to myself, like, holy shit, look how far you've come. That's a thing that's happening.
Yeah, you know what's funny? After all these years of training in the leg lock game, that was actually my first leg lock submission in any type of competition, grappling, jiu-jitsu, MMA. And so, yeah, all that hard work on the leg lock game paid off.
Well, so here's where I have to be totally forthcoming. A lot of my leg lock game came from John Evans, who now is somebody you work with a lot.
Yes.
So you're not only getting what I was regurgitating from him, but you're getting it in spades now.
I don't need it from you anymore. I get it straight from the source. Shout out John Evans, man.
That was not the intention of that story. It's still yay me, but also it's hard to compete with John because he's invented moves. He's he's like a hidden secret out here in the Valley. And he has been one of my go-to people. I say this traditionally and expectedly, but he is the only reason I'm not trash at jiu-jitsu. So he's definitely a very, very good resource for you to have.
Good dude too.
Absolutely. And a super nice guy. So I'm so glad that you and him started working together. Let's talk about this. How did this fight come together? And when did you start getting into a camp for it?
Well, actually I had this fight already booked. I think it was like sometime in, it must have been like August, already, maybe even July. I had this fight booked, and then an opportunity came up on another promotion to fight a UFC veteran by the name of Andre Ewell. Tough guy. He had just fought in the UFC a few months prior, and I took the fight on about, the contract was signed about 9 or 10 days before the day of the fight, and took a risk. Glad I tested myself, but unfortunately I ended up losing that fight. But it was great that I already had another fight booked. So I bounced back from that fight by taking this fight. I believe I train year round, so like it's hard to say like, camp this, camp that. Like I just look at a fight as just another opportunity to, test my skills, which I'm constantly training, constantly trying to learn. And I'm not always training as hard as I would be for a fight, but I was already in fight shape. I did let myself go like for a few weeks after that.
Shut up.
Previous fight.
Stop right now.
Hey,
you are not somebody who
man.
lets yourself go. Like I've heard you say like, Raph, I got fat before. And I was like, not at all.
Hey, but for me, it's like, like I feel fat sometimes.
I'm sure you feel fat. You don't get to call yourself fat. The fat delegation does not recognize you as a member.
So how about this? When I have to cut weight, then I'm overweight. Literally
you cut to a weird weight for you where more than one occasion, I should say this, when we've talked with people or we've had somebody who's like a mutual friend be like, oh, hey, what weight does he fight at? And I was like, you don't want to know. And they go, no, but what weight does he fight at? And I'm like, it gets weird because he can make those weights. And they go, no, but that's not what he weighs right now. And I was like, he'll make it. Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah. Hey, man. I love food, so I love fighting, but I love food too. So there's a happy balance there.
But it also tells me how many more sit-ups and push-ups do you have to do to equal that out? Because you're usually in still really good shape. Like right now, you fought a few weeks ago. We've had time to put this interview together. You also had a Thanksgiving holiday. You're not what I would call obese, even for your standards right now.
Right. So yeah, I mean, back to training. After this, I'm gonna get on the mat with you, you know, see what you've been working on these last few weeks.
I mean, so I've seen what you've been working on, though.
Sir.
So I know what's happening here. You know what's really sad is that I don't even get the benefit of being able to be excited when I see somebody else take you down because I'm too engrossed in like, no, I need this win. However, good job, guy. I wish I could do that because I definitely looked at that. I was really pissed when I saw him get a takedown because you have, and I don't know that people know this, you have one of the best ankle picks that I see out of a lot of my friends because your timing and your recognition of it is usually so good.
I'm going to put you on blast here, Raph. Correction is actually a low single takedown, but it's often confused as an ankle pick when someone kind of manipulates the head and literally picks the ankle. Low single, the way I put the head in the...
You can say what, you know what, say whatever the fuck you want. I know what I've been taken down with.
All right.
Maybe you just have more than one move.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. It's a takedown's a takedown, right?
Jesus.
So
my man over here is just like, actually, on January 26th, I do remember getting a low single, not a ankle pick. No, I know when I have been ankle picked. And the worst part is that I remember distinctly one time it happening. And I usually have a pretty good poker face when things happen to me. But this was particularly one of the times when I was like, oh, come on. I just like went back and I laughed really hard because as much as I try to be in the moment and like really give good roles to my training partners, I'm always the first to admit like, oh, that was not good for me. Like that did not go well. But I did notice, this fight came together. Obviously the one happened for Up Next Fighting as well. How do you balance doing what is essentially 2 fights that you're preparing for? Because you know that you took one last minute, good opportunity came up, but then you're also looking at down the pipeline. Absolutely. Because you know that that's coming up. How were you able to kind of keep that focus for both of those?
That's a tough situation. I guess my mindset was, I'm ready to fight. I want to get a good opportunity to really test myself. Oh man, it was in my mind. It's just like, if I could fight every week per the circumstances, I would. So I guess the training is always at a good level. I'm constantly learning, constantly improving my skill set. So, man, I guess to answer that question is just I treat every fight like just another fight, another opportunity to really test myself. So, I try to be ready for whatever. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what the outsider perspective is, because from my perspective, when I watch you get ready for your stuff, you to me, the reason you're always prepared is that I wouldn't disrespect any of my other training partners by saying this in this way, but I do believe of my training partners, you are of the upper echelon of what a martial artist is, because you're not trying to just be better at somebody than being like, oh, I'm just going to stick to wrestling. Right. There are days when you show up and you go, all right, today I'm a wrestler, but then tonight at 8:30, I'm going to be a no-gi guy. Yeah. And then there have been days where even with fighters, I'll say like, hey, you want to go in the gi? Like as shits and giggles. And you're like, oh, I have no problem with doing that. Yeah. If I got time, let's make time for the gi.
Yeah. That's always been my mindset. Even when I was younger, I didn't have any wrestling experience. I was fighting MMA at the time, but I would lose to a lot of wrestlers. So I figure I got to learn some wrestling. So I kind of got out of my comfort zone. It was kind of a really unique situation where I walked on a college wrestling team, and pretty uncommon for someone with no prior wrestling competitive experience to go against guys that have been doing it since they were little, and found some success there. And that's just been my mindset moving forward in my fighting career. Always trying to learn from the best at what their skill set is. And, even though I'm going to be losing in the practice room or losing on paper or whatever, as we train, I know I'm getting better, and I know I'm absorbing the best from that particular skill set. So that's always been my mindset. I'm not here to win in the training room. I'm here to be the best fighter I could be, as you mentioned, best martial artist I could be. If I'm fighting a pro boxer, I'll let my hands go. If I'm fighting a wrestler, I'm going to work on my grappling against that tough wrestler. So, that's always been my mindset.
And from where I see you is, sometimes there's like benchmarks where you kind of work on something and then it becomes like hypothesis test. Let's see how we work. And these improvements go in there. And I know that so many people are so motivated by winning in such a way where they go, oh, I just need to win. Yours is like, I need to improve as a martial artist. Like every single time, whether it's incrementally in one area or by saying like, oh yeah, the strategy is definitely to go out there and win, but I really want to show off this each time. So I know that's what I like when we're training, is that I see each time there's something new that you're building to. So that's usually why whenever you and I train, I kind of just ask you like, what are you doing? Because I'm always thinking like, where do I serve you best? Like, where does this kind of crossroads happen? Because you and I, whenever we train, you're notorious with me for just not caring about a clock. And those are where I get my best sessions, because it's like, I don't want to think like a bell's going to save me. I need to find my way to either learn from it or get better and like pick your brain from it.
Right. So like with my training, whether it's, no time limit or EBI rules or MMA rules, I like to think my training kind of covers many bases. So to even go back to one of your previous questions earlier, I train in a way where if tomorrow I needed to step into a kickboxing match or a jiu-jitsu competition or MMA fight, I'm pretty well taken care of. And with that being said, I'm not burnt out. It's fun training different disciplines. Like really, it's fun kind of knowing that, you know, anything could happen. I'm training everything, and I'm getting these different movement patterns. I'm not getting injured just doing the same type of training, right? Like if I was wrestling all the time, like my back's gonna be hurt, right? So I might not wrestle for a week and just focus on my hands or work on my kicks, or just like I might pull guard in jiu-jitsu just to work on my ground game. If I'm training jiu-jitsu, I'm really embracing the jiu-jitsu side of it. You know, if I'm striking with a boxer, if I'm going into a boxing gym to spar with boxers, I'm really getting out of my comfort zone. You know, I'm getting hit by boxers. You know what I mean? So that's my mindset going into you know, just trying to be the best martial artist I could be.
I believe that, dude, and I can verify that. I can fact check that. I am with you, because one of my favorite moments in our history, and I wanted to interview so bad after this because of this story, but you famously told me you wanted to do a sub-Olympic competition. Like we talked about it, and I was like, dope, let's do it.
I love the rule set.
Yeah, and I was just like, why don't we work on this and blah, blah. And because I'm a strategist, my first thought was, oh, hey, what's your experience with EBI overtime? And what did you tell me?
None.
And the freak out that I had, and the very like, yeah, that's okay. And I go, right, it is okay. So we have 6 weeks to teach you all of EBI against other competitors who are very well versed at that.
Yeah.
And then it became like, all right, let's break it up. Let's try to come up with like a different approach every few days.
Right.
And the way that you ended up winning that tournament was by EBI overtime.
Yes.
So in that same way that I was expressing earlier, when I'm like, oh yeah, it's dope that he just got a leg lock finish. Could have fooled a lot of people who saw the clip.
Yeah.
As one of my friends go, oh, that Asian cat that got that heel hook. And I was like, yes, that Asian cat is my friend. And they're like, that's dope. And I was like, cool. To then also having those stories where you go, I really just want to do this competition. Do you know EBI overtime? No. Okay, we should get to work. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then you do, and you get these progress markers of some success from that. But I think it's a lot in part to your attitude.
Yeah, and you know what? It was fun kind of learning that skill set. We were training, and you were kind of going over those rules at the time, which seemed so weird. I would equate it to kind of like the bottom of the inning or whatever, where if you get the submission, right, like then the match is over. And it was really fun. And I was still training hard for MMA at the time. Like just a few months prior to that tournament, I fought on Contender Series, Dana White's Contender Series in Vegas. So I was still training MMA, but obviously spending a good amount of time on the ground in the grappling department. Learned a new rule set. Had really fun. Shout out to Mike Wilson of Submission Only Series for hosting that event. Even Mike Morrell. He's a the tournament was around the first week of December, and I went home for Thanksgiving like a week before that, and this coach from up north, Mike Morrell, Cave Academy, really went over some mechanics of like arm bar and like escapes and what have you, and I really started to embrace those situations, and I was like, man, I love EBI rules, you know. So had 4 matches, great experience. Submission Only Series has exploded since then. Mike has done a great job promoting the event. They're doing
well. That's not
things.
The only person that it exploded, because you and I have familiar knowledge with your opponent.
Yeah.
And it's not just anybody.
Yeah.
Like, here's the sad part, and you'll understand the context of this a little bit later. But there was a moment when I go, you have to break the child. Right. And it's very sad because that sentence, again, out of context, doesn't sound great. But who was the child in question at this time?
Raul Rosas Jr. Shout out to Raul. He's made history since that match. Youngest fighter signed to UFC history. Man, I was so proud of him. I know he's a great guy. Had one hell of a match. And we kept in touch ever since then. He's wished me the best in my career, and I'm like so proud to see how far he's taken it. And that match was just a great experience for both of us, you know. And that whole event was actually, looking back on it, it was really significant in my career because I believe that was the first time you had cornered me in a competition. You were a great corner, and I appreciated that a lot. I actually met John Evans because, so the funny thing is, you guys were both commentating that event, and you left the commentating table to corner me for my matches while John kind of stayed at the table doing his thing, solo commentating. And now here we are. Now he's instructing me.
I want to make sure people know this. I have certain steadfast rules, and one of them was that I would never commentate and coach. And I don't know why I came up with that rule, but I take the commentary and the talking very seriously. I'm probably one of the few who does this for stupid reasons. But what complicates it is when your friend comes up to you and is like, hey, can you corner me? And I was like, well, I'm commentating. And you go, okay, can you corner me still? And I go, So this is how weird it was. I went up to John Evans and I told him this. And he's like, wait, what? And I go, yeah, I'm going to go corner him right now. And he's like, but you're doing commentary. So I thought that you would stay here and do the commentary with me. And I was like, I want to, but I need to go coach him now because I want him to win. And I did ask for permission, and I try to be a professional. And there was a slight hesitation, but I was like, well, and I thought about it. I was like, if I don't get this, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah. And
everybody worked out. It was fine. It worked. Very happy that it did.
You were like, you were all over the place that day.
But
and,
can I tell you, though, before we go back to this, because we'll get to you, Raul. You're famous enough. You won't even say this. But when I did that, there's like 2 or 3 times on the commentary stream where my inner monologue took over because I was trying to commentate what I was seeing. And I swear to you, I said out loud, oh, that's good. I got to go tell Brady that. And I was so in the mode of like, normally I don't play my hand like that, but I go, that's good to know. Anyway, we got to watch that left side. I'm going to go back over here. Yeah. And John, he doesn't get flustered because he's very good at what he does too. But the look on his face was very much like, oh, well, Raf's going to go over there and he's going to coach Brady. And this is looking very good. And
yeah,
I've never seen him thrown, but it worked. And the match between you and Raul was so fire. And I distinctly remember after that match, I had such respect for him no matter what, because he was really tough for a lot of opponents. And he has a style that can make you very aggravated because he tries to break you through movement and through a series of things where it's a very mental break that you don't see coming.
Yeah. He's the whole package. He's tough when he needs to be tough. He's athletic. And, you know, people call him cocky, call him a showboater, doing all this. But like, man, listen, this kid is bred for success at the highest level of fighting. So if you're a high level black belt and you're mentally breaking, because this kid, a teenager, is in your face, you know, doing all sorts of like, you know, dribbling hand gestures, man, like he's just on a different level mentally than you. So, yeah, I mean, my hat's off to him. That first overtime round, I actually was able to break his grip with the armbar, the spider position, and somehow his elbow slipped. I saw it, you know, I remember I pulled down on the arm and like it separated and his arm kind of like smacked me in the head as I was like trying to rip it off. And somehow he did some type of escape. Man, that kid's so athletic. And I was like, yeah, this guy's good. And, you know, that regulation period, we were going back and forth. But I knew he wasn't going to punk me. That was the thing. Like I saw that day how he was really mentally breaking guys. Even in the later tournaments, he would break a lot of high-level black belts just by being himself, having fun.
And it's weird because it started with them getting thrown, and then breaking because
Yeah.
they couldn't figure it out.
Right.
And they kept being like, this dude is being disrespectful. Or
Right.
They
Right,
get
right,
so
right.
caught up on something else where I put myself in your shoes. And at one point I thought, I don't think he would break me. I think it would just make me very entertained. And I think that would have fucked me up because I would have been like, yo, that's pretty dope. You've got great movement.
Right.
That my brain would have taken the split second it needs to take a mental vacation where he might have gotten an advantage over me. Because it's very fun to watch from the outside.
Yeah. And listen, like when he's trying to get in your head, man, this is competition. You could say he's cocky. You could say all this shit about, like he's disrespectful. Dude, like at the end of the day, we're competing. We're fighting. We're here to win. You know what I mean? So even in the later tournaments, I believe he won. He was a champion for like what, two other
I think so.
competitions for SOS.
And he was, making the rounds, like him and his whole family. But it should go with noting because afterwards, you and I went up to his family.
Yeah.
And they came up to us.
Yeah.
And we were just like, yo, that was so much fun. Like, and I remember distinctly telling him and his brothers, like, I feel we're going to see you again.
Right.
You guys are all monsters because there's a whole bunch of them.
Right.
And I remembered seeing that. So then when you see all these people talking about him, I go, well, of course, it makes sense.
I'm saying the way his dad, Raul Rosas Sr., approached him after the loss when we competed, and he like it was almost like, I'm proud of you, son.
Yeah.
That's a great parent. That's a great role model. It wasn't like, oh, you lost in the finals, like you were so close. It was like, hey man, great match. You'll get it again. And what did he do? He look at him now.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of that kid. He was so respectful, man. The guy was like just a young kid. I beat him and he's like, congrats, champ. I was like, dude, like I've trained, I've fought grown men in their 20s, 30s that are butthurt after a tough loss like that. And this kid is like, man, like it's all good, you know?
He's looking, I think, for good competition as well.
Yeah.
So when I think certain competitors get that pulled out and they pull it out of each other, you will not always see it, but there will be that moment of like, yo, this dude's fucking great. He's a martial artist.
Right.
I respect what he just pulled out.
Yeah. So I don't care if he was 16 or if he's 46. As a man and a martial artist, I respect him.
Yeah.
Before my fights, he's always wishing me good luck, champ. And I told him before his contract, and I was like, man, you're gonna beat this guy on Contender Series. Yeah. Like I'm confident in you. Yeah. And man, he's doing his thing now. So
yeah, it's great.
Small world.
And it's great that we have these moments. It's part of the reason why I like cataloging it. But we talked about it, and I just remember being like, I don't want to interview you if I coached you. And I just said like, but it was so cool. And then the weird part is the only thing that my dumb rules that I have made me feel like, that would have been cool to do it at that time.
Yeah.
Was just because it was way before this. Like that happened for him where he exploded.
Right.
But I'm like, it's still going to be an interview. Plus, you're not going anywhere. You're going to do something dope. And then you did. So we talked about how you were able to get two of those things going. How, now that we're talking about this ability to stay focused and stay grinding and stay so in it, were you able to make that adjustment from that up next to this? Because honestly, to do one back-to-back like that is very tough and it can be very grating, but you went right back to work.
I mean, that's the mindset I have. You lose, but you learn. And, it sucks to lose. I hate losing. I'm very competitive and I love the feeling of, all my hard work pays off. But the reality is sometimes you train your ass off and you do everything you can and everybody's like, oh, you're going to win. Everybody's in your ear telling you you're going to win and you're going to do all this great stuff. And sometimes it's not your night. And after years of competing and seeing the ups and downs of, fellow fighters' careers, people that I highly respect losing and myself losing and really embracing just coming back from losing is it can be exciting because there's still work to be put in. Obviously it's frustrating and it's depressing when you lose, but you got to think, like I have something to look forward to. I can fix some mistakes, back to the drawing board, And yeah, you just keep going. That's one thing I really like about like tournament type situations. You could win. You're gonna have multiple matches, right? So you could win a few, and you might lose one, and you could sit in the corner and cry and feel sorry for yourself. But man, you got to dust it off and be ready to go again because you didn't get a gold medal. Well, do you want to come home with no hardware? Well, might as well try to work my way back up for a third place medal. So that's the right mindset, and I think fighters that understand that, they're gonna go farther than fighters who just want to win and aren't willing to kind of pull themselves out from that. Oh, okay, well, if this is this difficult, I'm just gonna fuck it, quit. Right? Like, you got to bounce back from that dark place. And so you got to take the good with the bad. There's going to be a lot of great moments in your career, but man, nobody said this was easy. If this was easy, we all be world champions, right? Yeah. Somebody's got to win, so somebody's got to lose too.
Well, that is the hardest part to explain to people about this sport is, obviously the winning is fun, but the opposite side is the only way the sport works is that somebody is on the wrong side of the highlight reel. Right. So you have to have a certain knowledge that is a possibility, right, and that for every good clip you've gotten to post, you can also be somebody else's good clip.
Right.
So I think the more that people are able to wrap their heads around that and say, like, there's stuff that I can control.
Yeah.
There's stuff that I can do. And then some of that stuff is going to be outside of your handling. Because you always figure, like, dude, once you fight, you fought. You get the result. You know what it is. Yeah. There's this whole other thing that happens. So, for example, your great clip that just went up recently is pretty dope because it started traveling, right? Now, if that dude's watching it, I don't know what his interpretation is. But on our area, it becomes this exploration of, that wasn't part of your arsenal 3 years ago.
Right.
But now it is such a great progress marker. It's less about him and more about you were able to make that situation some part of your game that in a time where you needed it, you were able to pull it out and make it used in your advantage.
Yeah. What's funny? Actually, my last opponent, he's actually good friends, known one of my friends, Justin Mascardo, one of my training partners, good friends for years. And I think I had remembered Justin mentioning to me, like, oh, yeah, I have this training partner named Musa, blah, 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 like way before. And then when I got the offer that this guy would fight me, I was like, hey, you're friends with Musa, right? And then basically, long story short, my friend Justin was like, hey, I love both of you guys. I'm going to stay out of it. Like, may the best man win type deal. And I was like, that's a fight game, and I'm sure it's hard for Justin to be super happy for me because, his friend that he's actually no longer than me suffered a tough loss. It happens, like, tough veteran. He knows the game. But man, it's right. Like, you might fight somebody that you're going to train with. That's just the name of the game sometimes.
Funnier things have happened, man. I see it happen all the time, especially in our sport, where somebody that's your bitter rival becomes part of your team. All those things happen.
I feel like at this level, it's that is awkward and funny, but that kind of goes to show, like, at this level, like, people, like, these great fighters are going to cross paths at some point, so...
I liken it to this in the professional world for business, if you would, is that sometimes you have somebody that you wouldn't necessarily get matched up with, or that somebody who got, like, a job over you or something, and then you end up working together. So I always find that this is the fighter version of being professional.
Yeah.
The hard part is that because it is a different world, sometimes, where you settle things with fists and chokes and all of that sort of a thing. Yeah. You do get the benefit of doing that others of us that do a 9-to-5 don't get to do.
Yeah.
But when it works really nicely, I've seen so many people come around, and you see it at the top levels of the UFC, and you see it with gyms where somebody's like, hey man, I needed to come to a new gym to get this. And this happened to work, and I know this guy, and now we're going to be teammates. Yeah. And I just tell people like, I don't try to take any of this personally.
Right.
You know, like whatever you need, come to do it. But listen, man, it's one of the nice parts about doing the interview side is it's usually a lot more happy. It's usually like, hey, we're going to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
As a fighter, I know there's a little bit more of a guard. Yeah. Of a, like protecting your team and all that sort of stuff that can happen as well.
Like when I fought Andre on the Up Next card, man, at weigh-ins, we were like joking with each other. We were like being really, really respectful. Even backstage before the fight, the same night, like, I mean, we know what it is. Like we're going to try to beat the shit out of each other as soon as we step in the cage. But backstage, we're like, you know, what's up or whatever. And then after the fight, you know, he went up to me and was like, hey, man, like, you got it. Like, you know, like, you hurt me with a shot that I made me say, he said that it made him say, fuck, right? So you just went from fighting, and now he's trying to help me by basically being like, oh, like, just an FYI, next time you hit someone with that shot, like, don't take your foot off the gas. Like, you got to follow up, have that killer instinct. And sometimes we talk about poker faces a lot. Fighters have great poker faces. And, you know, maybe that was the small difference at that high level. If I would have just followed up and stayed on them, as opposed to like, oh, yeah, I don't think that shot was a shot. That was a home run hit, right? So I'm going to kind of lay off. That may have been the chance for somebody to recover at the high level and kind of get his second win and come back with a finish of his own. So even in a loss, man, I learned a lot from that experience. And I met his brother backstage, and you know, we were just talking about like, man, yeah, it's all business, like, you know, much love and stuff like that. So,
and the thing is, he didn't have to offer that to you, but it shows his character that he would.
Yeah, he did make me take a pay cut for that fight though. So
no,
it's all good. But,
okay.
But at this point, you know, like fighters, we don't get paid that much money anyway. So we're just happy to fight.
God damn it. Do you wish that you could recover faster from workouts or training? Do you wish you had the same energy, power, stamina, and drive that you used to? Every year after puberty, your growth hormone decreases, sometimes by as much as 50%. And spoiler, it doesn't come back. It doesn't matter how in shape you are or how good your diet is. Just like death, taxes, and sequels to The Fast and the Furious, they're gonna happen, whether you like it or not. But Raph, how does this affect me, a young jiu-jitsu practitioner who believes he will never get old? Well, growth hormone decreases can cause poor workout performance, slow workout and injury recovery, chronic fatigue, mood swings, depression, body fat, low libido, poor sleep, and a lot more. Though frankly, if you're asking me, that sounds like plenty. That's where BioPro Plus comes in. BioPro Plus is the first of its kind 100% non-synthetic alternative to prescription HGH growth hormone treatments. It immediately replaces what your body is not getting, and it does it naturally without the needles, nasty side effects, or the expensive costs of typical synthetic growth hormone treatments. BioPro Plus is not a synthetic drug, so it won't shut off your natural production or cause you to pop on any drug tests. Wink, ADCC competitors. Since 2009, BioPro Plus was only available through doctors, but not anymore. Now you can get BioPro Plus shipped directly to you. No doctor visits, no blood work, no pharmacy. If you're serious about your training, and I hope that you are, go to BioProtein Tech and use the promo code GRAPPLINGHOUR for We're giving them $30 off to our idiots? Okay, it's their money. Go to BioProtein Tech and use the code GRAPPLINGHOUR for $30 off. So go check out BioPro Plus today before your competition does. I don't want to get depressed
I
on that side.
understand, you know, UFC veteran.
There's a good upside for you.
Right, absolutely. I'm like, man, because sometimes, like, I'll fight for free. Like, I've been fighting before MMA exploded and went mainstream. And, like, I used to pay to fight in, like, little smoker events where, like, you pay cash, like, at the registration. They just kind of match you up with whoever's kind of like your size or kind of like is around your age. Like, my first fight, I was matched up against a 28-year-old Muay Thai fighter, and I was like 17. Jesus. Yeah, and I was like, this was before MMA exploded, and I was so nervous before that fight, and I choked him out in the second round, and I knew, man, this is what I want to do with my life. So
we're gonna circle back to that because you don't just get to the fight.
I ramble sometimes.
No, it's not rambling. I have an order I'm gonna go through, and we have not finished the order of operations for your latest win.
All right.
Because A1 Combat comes in, things go well. However, it did take a moment, and we're going to do an actual like breakdown of that fight later. But general feelings, when you were able to go from rounds 1 to 2, what was the adjustment that you needed to make? Because the thing that I watched when I watched that fight was, it wasn't necessarily that you were taking damage. It just, you weren't implementing what you needed to do to go. And so not being able to start was where I was like, okay, what's going to happen here? Right. And I'm not privy to what that was, but I saw the end result.
Yeah. So the first round, I was kind of laid back, right? I remember landing like 3 or 4 leg kicks and thinking, okay, it's going well. And then when he went to his wrestling, he's a great wrestler. I already knew. I didn't defend as much as I should have. Didn't really have that sense of urgency. Maybe it's something, you know, that's part of my game, because sometimes I like to think, okay, this guy's gonna gas out, but you know, what if they don't gas out, right? So that's a problem. That could be a problem. So making that adjustment coming out of that first round where I was clearly down, I was losing. I knew, man, it was gonna be okay. Because it's, you know, I wish I could tell you this answer. It was like, oh, my coaches were like, do something outrageous and we're going to come back. It was just like in my mind, I'm just keep going, stick with it, you know, and didn't really make any crazy adjustments going into the second. But I knew I had to kind of pick up the pace a little bit, of course. And I knew he was tiring out. A lot of fans don't understand when they're watching fights. They just think, okay, this is happening. But as a fighter, bro, it's hard to explain. Like, I feel this guy getting tired. I feel I'm landing shots that are damaging him on the feet and on the ground. I feel, you can kind of feel a fighter's will start to break. Is a very intangible thing, but like, it's hard to explain, right? So I knew in the second round, it was like I'm gonna just keep fighting. And sure enough, I found the finish, and yeah, it worked out. I'm
going to be very honest with people here in saying, as somebody who rolls with you at like 60-minute intervals, I know when you know I'm like not great. Right, and I go, oh shit, he's got to figure this out. And so sometimes I got to pull something out where I go, but I know that's one of your strongest qualities. Right. You have a very, very strong will. And I think that's one of the things that makes you a great competitor. So when we're training, I have to build things around the way that I train with you so that I don't go straight up 100% will and will. I have to like kind of ebb and flow on where I go. And I've noticed that what you're trying to describe here, and people are like, you're looking at the camera and being like, oh, I wish I could explain. I was like, no. I'll tell you. I've been in those rounds. It's part of the reason why I can watch your fights and say like, okay, he's all right. Yeah. Because you're like usually just this rock when you're rolling with somebody. You know, you have great base, great attributes that fit a good fighter. Right. And then to know, okay, you didn't take any damage. Yeah. So now put that will with your athleticism and your knowledge of doing this for so long. Right. I don't really get nervous for you. But what I want, if I see something going awry, is I'm like, no, I want him to get in. Like, we got to find our way in. Yeah. And that was the best part, is that midway through, you saw an opening and you took it, and you didn't waste, you didn't hesitate. And that became what made me cheer in the middle of a line at the In-N-Out Burger. And I was in a car, so fortunately nobody heard me yell out. Right. But it was a very excited, like, yep. And it was not one of surprise, but of, yep, that's how he does. Yeah. That's what he does. Yeah. So I was very happy for you. But I would like to know, what is going through your head when you do finish this heel hook? Because you might be the only person that knows this is the first leg lock that you finished in competition or in a fight. Right. So I saw the look on your face in the camera, but can you describe what was going through your mind at that time?
Oh, man. Okay, so we're gonna break down the footage in a little.
Yeah.
bit,
That's
but-
a separate thing. No,
so,
don't
you
listen.
know.
We're not breaking down for you people who didn't pay. If you pay, then you can see it. But if you didn't, whatever.
Right. So, man, I was just thinking, I might have something here. I'm gonna go for it. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, fuck it. Right? Like it's a fight. Like sometimes you gotta like go for it. Right? So, yeah, I had kind of a single leg position. I was in on the leg, and the way he was defending and pushing off my head, it was almost effortless. If I could be kind of cliche, it was just I flowed into that. It's not like something I practice all the time. You know, fighters kind of just improvise. So there was a little bit of I've seen similar positions, seen a little scenarios where this have worked before, but definitely there was a little bit of improvising, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go for this. It feels right. Granted, landed in saddle position, right? Had the inside heel hook, and John Evans always preaches like an inside heel hook is always more high. Is higher percentage than a outside heel hook. So I was like, as soon as it hit the ground, I was like, man, I'm gonna crank and I'm gonna go for it. And referee Frank Chig actually was a little late on stopping it. He was tapping, and it may have been like maybe about a whole second or a second and a half it took for him to kind of stop it. And I was like, I'm not letting this go. This was my first heel hook, you know.
Listen, I would probably do the same.
Right.
I would say this though. I should give the full context of my reactions in the In-N-Out burger line in my car. Obviously, the second part was very happy for you. That part you've heard. The first part was me going, this son of a bitch is going to do it, isn't he? And I wasn't like, it wasn't an angry, like a real angry. It was like, yeah, you know what he did? He literally just finished this like it was open mat at Frostness. Like you're at new ground. You kind of see the position and you took it.
And you know, sometimes you gotta go for it in the fight. Sometimes, you know, I know when I gotta be tough. I know I gotta, you know, bang, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you gotta be a little laid back and kind of be smart with how you conserve yourself. And sometimes you just, if you see the opportunity, there's not much time to think. You just go for it, right? So, yeah, I guess a lot of training, different situations where we go for stuff, it actually helps a lot because it kind of opens your mind. You get creative. You go for things that if you know you're just doing, you know, training the same way all the time, like, you know, it gets boring, right? So some of that transfers over to when you fight, to actually be creative, go for things, and just, you know, if it flows in the training room and it works great in the fight, that's the time to test it.
Yeah.
So,
well, it worked. What did it feel like to be put on leg locker? Because, okay, if you really make an effort to become a leg locker, you think like, oh, that would be kind of dope. Like they see that, they reposted my stuff. I don't know, even if you thought about it for competition, that maybe even in your head, you thought it would be a possibility for a fight sort of highlight.
Right. Well, I was definitely flattered, man. And it was like, I don't think I deserve to kind of consider myself, oh, you know, this fighter is a leg locker. I'm flattered when people think that, but granted, it was my first leg lock submission. So I was very grateful that they put that post out there. Glad so many people had positive comments about it, and, you know, blasted it and it going viral. It felt like, you know, wow, like, you know, all the training, you know, getting creative, it pays off, and it felt good to be acknowledged for it. Especially when we put in hours of training, right? Like we're talking like, you know, drilling, going for this live, and maybe I've hit like 100 leg lock submissions in the mat.
Not on me. I want to point this out.
Never
Still
on him.
never
That's
on
true.
me.
That's true.
I want to make sure that people know this.
That is true.
There's no reason for me to point this out. Like zero reason at all. But I just want it on record.
This guy, man. All right, we know, Raph. I've never leg locked you. That day that I do, you can hang yourself. But
no, I'm not going to hang myself. Jesus Christ. No, you know what I'm going to do? is I will just replay the footage of you getting a heel hook finish. And I'm like, well, I would expect to be leg locked by the infamous viral sensation, Brady. It took so long. Yeah. Who knew?
Yeah, man. But yeah, so all those hours we put in the training room, all that mat time, it finally equates to like, you know, just a few seconds of getting that submission in a fight where it matters the most to me. So,
but it's also like a testament to you don't know what you need until sometimes you need it. So you do your best to try and like train things that seem good.
Yeah.
I think this came from your emphasis as a martial artist, focusing on your grappling and not saying like, hey, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to finish fights like this, or I'm going to finish jiu-jitsu matches like this. It's like, hey, this is deficient in my game. How do we put this in here?
Yeah.
And then, you know, people like us, where I consider us peers, where we're kind of helping each other, when you get the reinforcement of a John Evans, that becomes a very good figurehead as a coach, that can reinforce that and say like, that's good. That's good. What you're doing right now is expressing a good attribute for that. Like, it shows what a good student you are to take that and move with it.
Man, you know what's funny? It was just last week, because it's Sunday now, right? It was last week. John was actually showing the inside heel hook in a class setting, and I was like looking at it like, okay, cool. And then it just kind of crossed my mind, oh wait, that's the same submission I had just hit. And I'm over here thinking like, man, like it's like I was trying to solve calculus or something. I was like, man, what is he doing? And then in the back of my mind, I was like, wait, this looks familiar. Oh wait, it's because I just hit this submission. Oh, in a competition, in a fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just a process of constantly learning and constantly like trying our best to apply the training situations to the actual fight. And sometimes like that's all the difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the way I explain it, you wouldn't think I'm super comfortable with it, right? But in a fight, I went for it. So yeah.
I mean, it was cool, dude. And again, we can't say enough good words to John Evans, because I know what he provides people, and I know how good he is. So I always appreciate when we get those moments where I think you, like I, had a moment where after I was happy for you, I was like, I'm happy for John. Like, that's so dope that he gets that too.
Yeah, so I was happy for John. I was happy for you, actually, because remember, that was our first situation where I met you years down, you know, way back when, and you were showing me leg lock techniques. I was happy for some of the great people who's helped me before, like Mike Morrell. Like I told you, he's helped me a lot on my leg lock game as well. The first experience that I had, I'm happy for Nico. Shout out Nico Requesto, a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
It was one night, we were like late night drilling. Me, Nico, and our other friend Brian. And Nico, you know, Brian was kind of tired. I don't know if they remember the story, but Nico was like so excited to like show us this like leg lock sequence. And man, this was like a long time ago, and I was like, me and Brian are kind of like half asleep, like it's late at night, like, and like Nico's showing us this flow, and I'm like I don't understand. Like at the time when Nico was showing us these leg lock positions and these like names and like, you know, because leg locks have like weird names, or like
saddle, reverse, like cowgirl. No, is that
right? And he's like saying all these weird names. And I'm like, you know, like I don't. At the time, I couldn't imagine I ever would have been comfortable with the leg lock situations, positions, techniques, even like learning the names or differentiating. Oh, inside heel hook, you know, outside heel hook, or saddle, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm comfortable. So I was happy for all of us, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great team effort. And there's so many people that I know who are our homies that we've trained with, who have contributed, and it goes even to the people at Open Mat. Like those people give us reps and allow us to see like, hey, this worked, or we got to work together.
Yeah, and with that being said, like it's not out of the ordinary that I just hit a leg lock on somebody, but somebody might submit me with a leg lock at Open Mat, or you know, at training. So it's always learning. It's a process of always learning. You know, just staying grounded and knowing like, okay, like you're getting better, but there's always going to be somebody better than you at that particular art. So I'm glad I feel comfortable with the game now.
So, okay, that happens. How do you celebrate that particular win, sir?
Korean barbecue.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Korean barbecue.
Oh shit, that's right.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
But is it the all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue?
It was.
Oh,
it
thank
was.
God. Okay.
It was. Man, I'm gonna butcher the name of the restaurant, but one of my good friends, Mike Chu, he knows the spot. It was in Koreatown. Went with a bunch of friends. It was fun. My girlfriend, friends that came from San Francisco to come watch me fight, and we talk, man. You know I love food. So that's my favorite way to celebrate.
Yeah, you still don't get felt.
Shout out Mike, man. Introducing me to Korean barbecue, all this delicious food out here in LA.
So let's take it back a little bit now. I want to go all the way back to the origin story. So every time we get people on here for the first time, I like to hear where martial arts found its way to you. So what are your earliest memories of martial arts?
Well, I remember I was a big fan of Power Rangers, like when I was like a little kid, barely starting to have a memory. Power Rangers, I was a fan of like Ninja Turtles, fan of Dragon Ball Z, and as you and I both know, I was a huge fan of professional wrestling.
You are, and it's so weird because you don't ever give off the pro wrestling nerd vibe, but you are, and you can hang. You have, like, when we talked about, you're not going to choke Simon. You have like legit credentials in that you would show me like, yo, this was a ticket I had, or this was a video I had, or an action figure I had. And I was like, and I looked at them and I was like, yo, this is deep cut stuff. Like the fact is, I would not put you and ECW in the same sentence, and yet you were a fan of that era as well. So, okay, when do you first remember pro wrestling? Like, what is your first pro wrestling memory then?
Oh man, well, I remember it was like late at night. I wasn't supposed to be up, and I think I was like watching this, like it was kind of like the new NWO with when they had like been bought out 14
different organizations that they had.
Like I think The Rock was like in a car or something, and like I think the NWO like hijacked the car and like ran his car over or something like that. And I remember thinking like, wow, that's cool, and after that, it's just so fascinating, at the time, like when you're a kid, like you want to be these like action figure type like wrestlers, these fighters, these like Ninja Turtles, these like Z Warriors or what have you, and it's something that MMA kind of gives some of these like nerds, right? Some of us nerds like this opportunity to kind of live out that dream. And I'm not perfect, but I'm me. I'm my own fighter. Yeah, you see what I mean? So that's the best career I could have chosen for myself. Because
I gotta tell you, you were never somebody that I would have pegged as a pro wrestling fan. But when you were starting to throw in a note or two here or a joker, I was like, no, where the fuck is this coming from? No.
I remember. So I have good memory. I remember this. It was something along the lines of like, hey, like, the lasso from El Paso.
Absolutely.
Like, Eddie Guerrero, rest in peace. I was like, yeah, this looks kind of like that. And you're like, lasso from. I'm like, what is this kid?
Because I said, you know what it is? It's like most people know the basic ones. Your Boston Crabs, your Walls of Jericho. And then when you're like, lasso from El Paso, that meant that you were really paying attention to what they were saying. Like, that's a very rare move. That wasn't his main finisher. That was like one of his third or fourth rate ones where you go, oh, maybe somebody might have tapped to that. But
I think he did use that to win the title, Survivor Series 2002 with Chavo, the WWE Tag Team Championship. So, yeah, it was against Edge, Rey Mysterio, Kurt Angle, and his tag team partner. We're not going to say his name.
He who shall not be named. It's fine.
Yeah, but so he's had some moments with it.
We absolutely did, and I remembered demonstrating it, and I was like, yo, it looks like this. And it's so weird.
You're an asshole, by the way, because you crank those.
I don't crank them. No. You know what I do? First of all, don't get mad at me. Second of all, I don't beat you up any more than you beat me up. Because one time somebody who I put in like a sharpshooter was like, yo, you put a little heat on that. And I was like, you put a little heat on your twister so you can fuck off. And so this dude was like, and I go, it's not that different.
Yeah.
The only difference is that I don't like when people do the moves wrong. So if I see somebody doing the move wrong, I can't help myself. I'm always like, no, come here. And they'll be like, why are you wasting your time in class to do this? I was like, it has to be said. I will not have you under my watch saying I learned this move from Raph.
Yeah.
So you were talking about it and you didn't explain it 100% right. And I was like, well, here are the options and here's this. And then I would tell you, I was like, oh, I've caught people like this or this, because sometimes my brain gets bored and then I try to do the pro wrestling move. And I was like, oh, I have somebody who I can do this to now. Yeah. Like, Brady's a brick. He's hard to roll with. But if I catch him in this, he won't be mad at me in the sense like, you're not allowed to do that. He's going to be mad in the sense of like, how the fuck did that happen? Yeah. And that's more the genre of who I try to pick on.
Yeah. Man, and hey, I can't wait for WrestleMania.
Absolutely. Going, right? We are.
Yes.
I gotta get night 2 tickets because fun story, everybody. I was at work, should have been doing work, and I bought 2 sets of tickets.
Same here.
I bought 2 sets of tickets for night 1. And I was so stoked because I got night 1 done, got night 2 done. Why do they both say the same date?
Ooh.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And I told somebody, I was like, I can't even complain about it because I was doing it on company time. Ooh. And I should have not done it right then and there. However, the tickets will not go to waste. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, and
even if I have to resell them,
I think I do have day 2 tickets, but they're like in the nosebleeds, and like you're like too bougie for that. So we gotta figure that situation out.
Hold on. How many WrestleManias have you been to?
1.
Exactly.
WrestleMania 31.
1. Mm-hmm. If you go, you don't want to sit too far away. Like you want to be there in the experience.
I was on the floor for 31. You know.
Did you pay for it?
Yeah, I paid for it.
Okay,
Yeah,
I wasn't sure.
I'm no one special. What
I'm just saying. I don't know what your deal was because when you were telling me you were like, I got nosebleed seats, I was like, well, this is California market, so this is gonna be a hard thing to come by.
Yeah, and the website was being so weird, and it sucks, dude. It was. So I was happy to just get what.
But nonetheless, yes, and we have a lot more events and stuff to get to. Unfortunately, what people don't know is that for this particular fight, I was going to a local show out here, and you hit me up. And you have to know, I promise you, I was going to message you because I put up, I was like, does anybody want to go to this? Because I wasn't sure if I was going to go, but I really wanted to. And you hit me up and you go, I would go with you, but I'm in the middle of a fight weight cut, for my fight this weekend. I was like, yeah, I know, dude. I would have invited you. Yeah. And I was so sad because I don't even want to bring it up. What am I going to tell you? Do you want to go to this? And you're like, well, maybe after I make weight, I can go meet you. And instead of hydrating to win a fight, I could go watch somebody get hit with the steel chair.
But instead, you take Angel. Well, shout out Angel. He's a cool guy.
Hey, listen, dude. He needed to get the experience because while cultured and actually a very good move seller, by the way, Angel takes a very good bump. And I did not expect that from him.
Me too, right?
Okay, here's the one thing about your bump. You're not bad at some of them.
I sell great, man. If I may say so myself.
Okay. When you're like, say you're in a figure 4, you do a lot of facial selling. I take that shit
seriously.
It's good. Yeah. But I have to be honest with you. Some of your selling, you can't get rid of because you're too good of a fighter. And here's what I mean by that.
Fighter.
There are moments where if I'm goofing around with you, sometimes you'll be like, oh, but I am a fighter, so I'm not going to sell this. And you'll no-sell something, and you don't know that. But it's because of your instinct to be a fighter.
Oops. Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
cool. Yeah.
I'm not trying to take that away from you. So this is more important for now. But like when we're goofing off, if I hit you with the stunner, your first thought is always like, I would never buckle like this from a kick like that. No teeth would ever do that. It's kind of a
tricky one to sell, right? Like, I think... Man, who's done it great? Booker T and like the Royal Rumble, he sold it great. The Rock was a great stunner seller. The Rock still is, right? Like,
what is it? It's Scott Hall.
Scott Hall has
a good one. Somebody asked me the other day.
18.
Somebody asked me, they were like, who has the best stunner sell? And I was like, honestly, there's a kid now by the name of Austin Theory who does a really good sell.
Theory.
I go, he's really, really good. I go, but like classic, it's got to be Rock. I think the Rock is more iconic with it, but Scott Hall's like I'm going into outer space is like right up there.
Yeah. Well, I like when he had stunner. I think it was Booker T, Royal Rumble. Booker like kind of That was great, right?
That was so fucking good.
Definitely better. Remember when he stunnered? Was it Vince McMahon where Vince kind of just flopped on the ground?
But so the thing is, I love what the sell is from Vince. because it is so bad that it does become good. Because when he does it, like, dude, this past WrestleMania, when Stone Cold comes back after years of not wrestling and shouldn't be wrestling, but is, and Vince, this is pre-scandal, everybody knows 100% what's going on, but there's an investigation going on. So all of a sudden, this Vince McMahon inserting himself into an angle for no reason makes way more sense. But Vince gets in there and is just like, well, Austin, let's go. And then you look at him and it's like, well, this man's going to get stuttered just like we saw in 97. This is going to be amazing. And Vince sells it in a way where he goes over his own knee. And I go, Vince, oh man, I don't need to see you die like this.
I can't stand seeing Austin kick them and they're like already falling. Like, I mean, like
he was falling as was. He didn't need the help for it. But yes, otherwise, when you're selling the move itself, logic, very good. It is the impact moves that we have to work on. Because I think sometimes if like I punch you, you do have that look that is almost like, I would equate you to almost like Dave Bautista in Guardians of the Galaxy. No, wait for me. Because I like the idea of you like having no irony for a split second and being like, it's not really good. Oh, ow. You know, like you take a moment and go, Brady he'll commit. It's just, you got to put him in a lock for him to go all the way out. Because I saw one footage when we were at I think Frosto's, and I put you in a figure 4. And I usually, now if I know myself well, I actually don't use that one too bad. That one's usually a pretty easy move to be out of, but it can hurt really badly if you do it.
Sharpshooter.
No, it's not the sharpshooter. That's my finishing move. So you got to protect your finisher, guys. Never ever let your finisher look weak is the big thing.
Right.
But like a figure 4, I'm like, all right, cool. So I let you do that. And then you were like, you had this look. And I think we had a few people just kind of like watching us being idiots. And you were absolutely selling that. So if I find that footage, I'll overlay it here. But I definitely saw that and I was like, good for him. That's a good sell. So
thank you.
That's my honest assessment of your stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll work on it too.
I know you will. That's the dumb part. And it has no use yet, but we never know because you could find yourself in a match one of these days.
And plus, I like to just have fun on the mats. So.
That's the best part is like, I always tell people, I'm like, when we do these things, it's a good way to break up the ultra seriousness that many of us have been to at many different academies where you're like, this is not fun. And it's different if you're fighting where you kind of get a moment to be like, hey, listen, this is obviously very tough to do as a career. So you'll take the moments of brevity. So the first couple times we were doing those moves and I was like, oh, Brady's having a good time with this. We'll keep this up. Okay. So, those are the first moments, right? Where it's like pro wrestling and Ninja Turtles and all these things. When is your first, what I would call maybe a martial arts class or moment? Because wrestling didn't happen until college. I don't know what you were doing before that, but I would assume you were doing some athletics.
Yeah, I was, I played basketball, middle school and high school. Wasn't the best, but I loved it at the time. Played baseball, ran cross country. So I was always involved with like athletics and I love sports, but I didn't train any type of martial arts until I was like 16 back home in San Francisco. And that was back in 2009. Then I had my first MMA fight. At the time we called it Smokers. It was an amateur fight in 2010. So that was my experience.
So let me ask this. You were saying about 2009-ish, right?
Yeah, it was like May 2009 was the first time.
And what was that class? Like, what were you doing at that time?
MMA.
It was MMA. Okay.
So I think that was a cool thing about it. I didn't really have like, you know how like a lot of fighters have like a jiu-jitsu base, boxing base, kickboxing base. They come from wrestling. I started off training kind of everything, the grappling, the striking. Not saying I was the best at either, but I already went into it with the mindset I'm an MMA fighter. I'm a mixed martial artist. So that's always been a weird question when people ask me, oh, are you a striker or are you more of a grappler? And it's like, you want to ask a basketball player? Are you more of a 3-point shooter? Or are you more of a passer? You know, they do everything, right? So it's like I'm an MMA guy. Like I do everything. It's still a weird question that like as evolved as a sport has become, people still classify, striker, grappler. But when I started, that was my mindset. I am a mixed martial artist. I'm gonna be as well-rounded as can be, and yeah.
Okay. I'll ask this because normally it goes with people like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
They go to jiu-jitsu first, or they go to striking first, or they go to wrestling first.
Mm-hmm.
How do you immediately become, I'm going to do fighting, or I'm going to become a fighter? Because most people have to work their way to that.
Right.
So where does that like find its way in for you, sir?
Well, I had been training for about a year and like a year and a month. About a year and a month. Kind of picked it up rather fast. I was like, I gravitated towards, mind you, all the aforementioned sports that I had participated in. I was never like a standout athlete. You know what I mean? I was not, like horrible, but I was nothing special, right? And fighting, it really stuck with me. I gravitated towards just the whole art of fighting, putting things together, learning striking, learning grappling. Is combined with athleticism and, training as a tough person. Like fighting was great at the time because I was a young kid, kind of a punk kid, and it shaped me into pretty much the man I am today. I know it sounds cliche, but I was not always the most confident. I was bullied at times growing up, and fighting kind of gave me the confidence where I didn't really have to use it, but like the way I carried myself, the same people who were bullying me, they were like, hey, it's something like he's talking back to me in a way that's different. And all of a sudden they stopped fucking with me, right? So I know I'm going on a tangent, but basically, like fighting kind of made sense to me. As we talked about, I was super nervous, super scared before my first fight. I was like, I don't want to do this, right? And like I said, I choked a grown man out. I was 17, choked out a 28-year-old fighter in the second round, and I was like, man, like I kind of love this,
Was that the actual moment you fell in love with the sport or the art, or did it happen before? Because the thing I can't wrap myself around with is you have to really want to fight. And fighting is not something that you kind of can do easily. Like I feel like jiu-jitsu, you can kind of get some trial and error, and it's a little more safe.
Yeah.
Fighting is a little more, this could very much hurt you, but there is a love and there is a passion that makes you want to do it. So where does that come from?
It's funny you asked that because when I first started training, I had no intentions of competing. I just wanted to train for like self-defense purposes, to maybe get in good shape. It actually wasn't. People see me as like a fit guy now, which is kind of funny because before fighting, that wasn't really my identity. But at the time, I wasn't really lifting weights. But my basketball coach was like I remember we were at basketball practice, and like he like kind of like jokingly grabbed my shoulders, like, "Oh, look at you getting all buff now." And it was all just the training from the boxing, grappling, which, as you and I both know, you could get a great workout just MMA. It's full body is great.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to run or lift weights. Training at that time was like, okay, like I love the training. Okay, cool. I love the lifestyle of training. And I didn't want to compete. I was scared to death to compete. It was actually my trainer at the time wanted to throw me in the cage and fight. And I was like, I don't want to do it, right? And as I kind of thought more of the idea, it was like, you're kind of being like your own, like, pro wrestler type character, your own kind of like Power Ranger type character. I was like, you know what? Like, this is a cool opportunity for me to like be me, represent myself, and basically be your own little video game character in real life. And so I went from this nervous, shy, kind of not so confident guy. And when I fought, man, I felt so free. I felt like, excuse me, I felt like I was having fun. I can see everything. And yeah, there was a little bit of fight or flight and kind of being in a place where I'm in the flow zone, but I was very calm at the same time. I was like, you know, it's a trip when you're like super nervous backstage. No one would have guessed, right? But when you fight, people are like, oh man, you look so like calm in there. You look chill. Like I'm having conversations with, even to this day, like I'll be in the cage, like talking to people like that are like, hey Brady or whatever. I'll be like, hey, good to see you, Luke, or whatever, right? Like, and yeah, like I guess to answer your question, I felt like I was free, and I fell in love with that like feeling of when I'm in there, like I feel free. I'm able to express myself in a way that I won't ever get this opportunity to do otherwise, and that's fight another fighter.
Do you feel like you've made good on that thought from being that young and being like, well, I want to be kind of a Power Ranger, a pro wrestler? Like, do you think that you have fulfilled that part because you're still an active fighter and you still have a lot to go, and so you're still just, I don't even think you've hit your peak athletically. So I wondered that.
You know what? Whenever I'm hard on myself, I need you to slap me, Ralph, because looking back on it, I went much further than I ever possibly could have imagined. I know now I can be kind of hard on myself, but sometimes I reflect back on like, man, like I didn't even expect to make it this far, you know, like maybe like a few fights or whatever. Now, between amateur and professional, I have well over 30 fights. This most recent one was my 16th pro fight. So yeah, sometimes I'm like, man, like it's tough. But I remember like, dude, like you never even thought that you would make it this far, fighting in Japan, fighting in Vegas, fight capital of the world, you know, like, I'm the first, person in my family to even consider doing something like this. I love my family. They don't really love the idea of me getting punched in the face for a living, but I love the art. I love the lifestyle. So I do think I made good on that, that passion growing up, because dude, like I never would have even imagined that like I would be heel hooking somebody like this, you know, or winning fights or traveling to Japan, getting paid to fight in Japan. You know what I mean? So,
well, it's not just that. I mean, it's also now having a very good record, a very good resume that speaks to a number of different fights that you've had, a number of different styles.
Yeah.
And so you've gotten all this experience in all these years. And it's funny to me because I know you now for almost 4 years or so, but there's so much of you that I didn't know. So there's this assumption of, man, you would have made a great martial artist as a kid coming into a gym like this, you know, age 6, if that had been the course. But the fact that you were able to cut the distance, and that's why I call you a good student, is it's not just because you come in and you're super humble and you're super good and you got a great work ethic, but it's your way of processing things. So I think what ended up happening is you ended up finding the right avenue to channel that and to show it. So that's why when people kind of get caught up in the fight game, they forget there's this whole martial arts side where you can show what a student you are. You can show off these things and be like, oh my God, I didn't know I can do that. I know I was capable of it.
Right.
So that's why to me, getting these context clues or these kind of things that tell us a little bit more, I think they tell a broader story about where you started from, where you're going, why you keep doing it, and where you could potentially be going. Having said that, what is next? Because for you, you come off this win, and I know it's very funny to people that you did mention this earlier, but it is very true. When he says he wishes he could fight every day, I know that when you came from the loss, you were like, well, I got another fight. I'm ready to go now. To then you won, and I go, no, it's going to be the same answer. He's going to want to fight as soon as possible. But what is in your mind, what's coming up next?
Well, my agent, shout out Bryce from Royal Sports Management. Bryce already told me like, hey, stay ready. I want you to fight next month. So we're waiting for them to get back on us. Okay, cool. And so I'm looking to fight next month.
Excellent. Excellent. Stay active, stay ready.
Stay active and just, that might be a reason for me and an incentive to, not get completely fat these holidays,
No, that doesn't work. You
don't. I feel you, Raph.
Don't try to hug your fat
together,
friend. No. We got to stick together. You are not. You don't. You do not understand. When have you ever weighed more than me? Exactly.
Well, there was one time
that was like, bro, no. In our existence of knowing each other, you've never weighed more than me.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
Because I've thought about it. One time, I think you came in and you're like, I'm this weight. And I was like, that's unusual for you.
I think you had seen me after that fight where I was like kind of robbed a split decision. I was like, after that, I was like kind of actually, we went to get Korean
barbecue after that.
Yeah. So
but I remember
recurring pattern with Korean barbecue. But
win or lose, you're gonna eat well. I do know that,
and that I did. And I thought I had gotten what I would classify as fat after that.
No, you did not,
but
because
apparently
it was
beg to differ.
Bigger, sure, but in my recollection, the way that I see you do your stuff is I'm always like, this dude thinks he's fat, and I'll indulge it just so that he can know what good food tastes like every once in a while. But deep down inside, I'm like, I'm judging this young man for thinking he is anywhere remotely as fat as I am. How dare he? I've worked very hard to be a certain level of consistent.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do this. I think we're going to put a pin in here. We're going to do a breakdown of your fight for a separate interview segment. But I always like to give people the opportunity to shout out. That is your camera right there. Anybody who helped them on this recent camp, anybody they want to give special acknowledgments to. So I'm going to put that camera directly on you, and feel free to talk to and tell anybody that you want to say thank you to who helped you, sir.
Well, first off, thank you, Black House MMA, and all the coaches and training partners over there. Moving to LA was a huge part of my growth, my life, and training at Black House was a great decision for me. So thank you, you guys. Thank you, everybody back home. My good friend Nico Requesto, love that guy. He's actually he's hurt right now, but if you're watching this, man, I fucking love you, dude. And his coach Mike Morrell, and someone who's been a great, just role model, just a great instructor, and has always just so kindly opened his doors to me whenever I'm back home. So thank you, Mike, and the Cave crew. Thank you to my Unbreakable Performance family, always being very supportive of me. I'm actually starting up a no-gi jiu-jitsu program there as a coach there, so I can't wait to get things running and pilot this program for you guys. So shout out to Unbreakable Performance. Love you guys. Thank you, Super Rare Fight Shop, for this. Actually,
that's a great shirt, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, Super Rare. Love the shirt. Thank you for everything you do for me. Dylan, man, you hooked me up. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you, King. Hey, thank you, King and Henry at Punch King, man. You guys always help me too. The best punching bags, best mitts. They're coming out with some really cool stuff. I'm happy I could have been a part of the beginning, and happy to see how far you guys are going to take the vision of Punch King. So shout out Punch King. And shout out Raph. Shout out Raph, man. You're a cool dude too. Yeah.
Thank you. Very nice.
Yeah,
unnecessary. But what I can tell you is this. I mean it so sincerely. So happy for your success. This has been a long time coming. You work so hard, and as somebody who gets to witness that, it is frustrating when a win doesn't avail itself. But that's the way it goes.
What do you mean?
So if I'm one of those people who get to see how hard you work, there's a 50-50 option. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But just because you lose didn't mean you didn't work hard.
Right.
It's just like, oh shit, we didn't get to show how hard this man worked because of this, or this happened, or this happened. And so I'm a big proponent of when something good does happen, you kind of catalog that moment so that you have it and that it's kind of like bottled, but that you keep moving forward. So the nice part for me is knowing there's still stuff that is ahead for you, but it is so vitally important as a friend who sees good things from you to say like, yo, we should acknowledge this was dope. This was cool. That heel hook finish was awesome. That's a testament to those times when you were putting in the work in those rooms with those people, and that, you know, it might seem lucky, but it was something that you were actively making happen.
Absolutely.
So that's why to me, it's like, you know, I was hitting you up. I was like, we need to do this interview. We're going to do it for this one. I had nothing to do with it. I wasn't even there. So we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about it, and then we're going to break it down. So
let's do it.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Brady,
you.
good people over here. Don't go anywhere, because if you want to see this segment, you got to go to HY.PAGE/grappling hour. I hope that you'll enjoy that segment. It's a 12-minute fight. It's dope. If you want to see a lot of what we're talking about, just become a premium member. And if not, I mean, listen, it's your loss. That's all I'm going to say. Quick reminders, member, like, subscribe, comment, all that good jazz. And don't forget to join our Discord for the Grappling Hour. We have a lot of technique stuff that's coming up in here. And maybe you see a preview of this in that Discord. I'm not going to say you will, because that means I have to edit it. And I don't know that I will, honestly. It's a lot of work. Anyway, love you guys. It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.